into effect. Channel 7's Tony Russomanno takes a look at the potential dangers that exist and the impact repairs could have on the Santa Cruz economy.
You don't have to look very hard to see the problem on the Santa Cruz Pacific Garden Mall. Now inspectors have confirmed that nearly half of all the commercial buildings downtown are potential death traps in an earthquake. The 6.5 magnitude quake in COALINGA 3 years ago rattled public officials throughout the state, resulting in a new law this year that requires cities and counties to identify potentially hazardous buildings and to come up with their own local plan to reduce the hazard. In Santa Cruz, that job fell to Chief Building Inspector David Steeves.
Downtown is built on an old river bottom, and we suffer liquefaction. And during a quake, that is probably the worst location to be, to have structures in, is on liquefaction, because the ground moves like jello.
Combine that with turn-of-the-century buildings.
Then you have a real problem with these buildings. I would assume if we had a quake similar to COALINGA's quake, that we would lose a good part of downtown.
Steeves proposed an ordinance to require seismic retrofitting that could cost building owners millions of dollars. Most of the shops along the mall are small businesses that lease space in the older buildings. The shopkeepers are afraid that if they have to close for major renovations, or if owners decide to abandon their buildings rather than fix them up, the mall would quickly become a slum.
I certainly wouldn't want myself or my employees to be in an environment that wasn't safe for them. But we're all trying to live and do business here, and so somehow you have to have a happy medium, you know, of protecting yourself against the future and also creating a life for yourself right now, which is making money in Santa Cruz and having a good business environment.
Renovation is already underway in a few buildings. Here, steel K-frame girders are being added to brace up the walls and ceiling. Other buildings have required emergency repairs, including one where a brick wall actually detached from the rest of the structure during a mild quake a few years ago and stood supported by nothing but balance. The proposed Santa Cruz ordinance is expected to go through many changes before it becomes law. One compromise may be to follow the example of Palo Alto, where building owners are required only to tell the city what, if anything, they plan to do to correct identified hazards. Palo Alto officials say building owners are making repairs because they know they'd be held liable for damage. In Santa Cruz, Tony Russomanno, Channel 7 News.
Santa Cruz proposed ordinance expands on a new state law that requires cities and counties to identify seismic hazards in buildings of unreinforced masonry built before 1933. Now, the cities and counties then have to come up with a plan to reduce the hazard by 1990.